Everybody, it's Rich. It's Monday. It's October 15th. Absolutely. It slipped out in a dream last night. Falsified medical records without any question. Falsified medical records. I don't even question. That's how you achieve your maximum potential. If I knew that, I'm telling you. Now let me ask yourself, instead of pursuing my career, last week I invested the time in what I did there. That's what it took. Absolutely falsified medical records. That is how I achieve my maximum potential to achieve a professional career with my background. And that you can't change. I'm telling you what I have stated here and all of what I've reviewed here. Get down with a piece of paper and a pen, and I never want to hear about medical again. I'm so absolutely... ever since I came out here, A equals B, but it's not B at all. It's C. Absolutely psychological malpractice. Absolutely. You can prove that your medical records were falsified. How? That's how. You know how else you can prove it? You had these in your hand. You had those in your hand. You've kept good backup records of your of what happened in Lake Forest. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a perfect spot to put it. It's not organized. Where is it? Where's my career history? All of this, a couple of pieces of paper. Clearly, I would love to know the history of those action bills. I kid you not. Take on all of these whirling special interests. All of them. You know, they just put down a word. Mental health. Well, let me guarantee you something. It goes back to the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. Completely irrelevant substance. I'm not in that field. I'm not in that field. I do know I'm being affected by a whole whirling bunch of special interests. These medical records, absolutely. It is impossible. That is impossible. This guy, I had those yellow page ads and everything to fully substantiate my history. And I dealt with Jim Harris III, all of it, all the way up to President Bush. Falsified medical records, absolutely. That's the end result of legally documenting. And what happened here? Well, I happen to have a bit of a cushion here, like $250,000. Okay, and I didn't come out here to figure out how well the maximum potential is being achieved. You can absolutely substantiate, without a shadow of a doubt, with everything that you have, that the likelihood of those impossible. Those medical records are falsified. What is A stays A only. That is no way to disqualify. Absolutely. That is falsified medical records. I don't know how much more I can say other than falsifying medical records. There you go. That's help, all right. That help you'll find completely out of control out here. That might explain what happened here. What stays A becomes B. It's not B at all. So let me ask yourself. You see, I've done about 75, 80 videos. You know nothing about my background. Thank God. Thank God. I'm going to do that in the conclusion. I'm going to do that in the conclusion now. Okay? I'm going to do a review of my present-day career. Yes, I am going to do that. And then I'm going to conclude this. And then I'm going to give a link to present day by the results of all the help. I think this basically proves it. Very much so. I don't want to get an irrelevant substance at this time with where these... Absolutely. Now let me ask yourself. I could have pursued my career last week, but I thought it was vitally important at this point where I am, and I will cover that in current day under richardmossfacebook.com. I thought it was much more important by far that instead I did what I needed to do to get all the memories back chronologically, bundling together those thousands and tens of thousands of paragraphs, words, what output in tens of thousands of experiences in a couple of words, a couple of sentences, a couple of paragraphs. It starts back in that introduction. I needed to do this. I needed to do this. Worked very hard here. There's something I would normally only in absolute survival. For the truth will always come up. I don't even have the slightest hesitation here. I did the most important thing, utilize that time as wisely as possible over the past week. What slipped out in the dream? You bet you can prove that your medical records were falsified, and you probably can also prove that Mr. Jim Harris III, with a reset statute of limitation, has committed to psychological malpractice. It's very obvious. Alan Markle has falsified your medical records. No way can you get that legally documented. When I retained from 4/7/2004, that might explain what happened here. Okay? Impossible for that to be you. It's impossible. But legally, for over 40 years, all that wiped out by achieving your maximum potential. I don't even question you can prove falsified medical records without slightest question. You did exactly what you needed to do last week in absolute survival. A becomes B, but it's not B at all. It's a felony. You dealt, I'm not even getting into that. I dealt with that yesterday. It came out, the truth. Now, it's just the beginning. But will you prove psychological malpractice? Get me up in Deerfield. I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do. You bet I am. You bet I am. Get me back up on Lake Forest in the old money where there's a high demand for that professional career. I will reincorporate and readapt very quickly. That is 100% honest. You want to see a real psychological malpractice, high-profile example of the southern states? It'll be decades. A couple of decades. It's very much long overdue. Everything I've stated in this chronological retrieval of disclosing everything about me. I can't be... no way. That is not using psychology. What has been documented here. I have records here that go back. I should have had it up to Lake County immediately. I think you have proven it at this point. the human studies professor with Mr. Jim Carden, and particularly Jim Harris III. And that happens to be, who else? Graham Sisson. And then you got Bill Pryor and President Bush. Absolutely none of that's medical. It's outright, I can clearly show, without a shadow of a doubt, that is no immunity on that. Mr. Jim Carden, no wonder he can just, you call him, what is going on here, you expect the correction, and what do you get? Some criminal, outright felony. There's no, I know there's no immunity on that. There is not immunity for falsifying medical records. No way. This guy's mental illness. I've been through the whole thing out here in Birmingham. That's just a typical incorporated norm. I kid you not. I think anybody who would look don't look at the quality of these files I've had to document. None of that's medical. I have added up the yin-yang with medical. Falsifying medical records. I want to tell you, I've just put together what's the most important aspect, utilizing this time as wisely as I possibly can. That was the utmost importance, to keep bundling up those thousands and tens of thousands of experiences throughout an entire spectrum of my lifetime. That's what I did. All of this. It's hard to prove, but I'll guarantee you something. This is going to be big. This is falsified medical records. All of this. You see how A becomes B? But it's all C. I don't want to ever hear about medical. I am so disgusted at simply trying to get a PhD in vocational psychology, God forbid. That couldn't have been, it shows how outright criminal they are. It shows how they're outright criminal. I got a neighbor next door that, he's on psychotropics or something. Thank God. Anything happen. You can snap on it. I'm very fortunate I've got a fantastic property manager. I'm sure he's hearing me. He probably hears me yelling like that. He can hear me over there. Falsified medical records. Without any question. Without any question whatsoever. Alan Markowitz is a felon. That is without any question. You bet I'm taking these hard copies with me when I go back up north. But I'm able to do that, to get the truth out. Over the past 35 years, it can be taken away just like that. And that, I don't think I have anything to be concerned about. There's no way I would contact the FBI in Birmingham. No way. No way. How high profile is this? About as high profile as it gets. I got a long day ahead of me here, and my electricity, I'll review it after all of it. Of course I've been injured. What do you think? Anybody who sees that psychological malpractice up on the Chicagoland North Shore would be in complete 100% agreement. I'm going to do absolutely necessary for what is necessary for survival. I'm sure anyone, that's some real good high quality substance that I just invested that time in over the past week. That was absolute in survival what you saw me do there. And you take a good solid look at that with any other human studies professor, and I think that I have had, this is not immunity. No way. This is outright the most serious form. I thought it was entrusted servants of Congress. I always experienced the highest level of honesty, integrity, and the healthiest contact. I would never believe it. I certainly believe it, and unfortunately have experienced now all the help. There's only one thing. I can't find any help. The helping hand leads you into falsified medical records to increase and maximize performance, as I now realize today. Absolutely thy Creator's intended purpose. If I've meant to serve, thy Creator's purpose is most important. Thank you. I understand I'm very healthy. I'm telling you, the corruption and the evilness and how powerful this is. I think anyone who knows when I head back up north. Now, to be able to get back incorporated in that Chicagoland North Shore, I believe I'll have a very successful career without any question. I need that PhD in vocational psychology, God forbid. It is in 2004. I had 205. Thy Creator's intended purpose. If I've meant to serve, I certainly will be sacrificial in this nature. You bet I will. I think all of this is self-explanatory. The truth will always come out. Everything taken in consideration. You compare. It's unresolved. It's not A anymore. It's B. No. Let me correct it back to that format I'm using there. It's not the basis of the intended purpose anymore. It's 1 equals 2, but now you got 3 and 4. But it has nothing to do in any manner. It was not a correction as I continued all the way up. Yes, none of that is medical in any manner. Alan Markowitz, Joe Lee, Graham Sisson, who else is there? I mean, I can fully reconstruct everything. That's what I've done here. And it's an outright felons. That is, without any question, go back to 4/7/2004. That's what slipped out in the dream. That's why this is the very most important aspect as of Monday, October 15th. Without any question. That dream, your physiological medical records were falsified. How can I prove it? You're seeing the end result of an ambulance. You think that 1 and 2 might become 3, 4, 5, 6. Always comes back to medical, though. It's not medical in any manner. You can see I've gotten plenty of help. That kind of help. You bet I'm taking all these hard copies with me. I wouldn't even chance it. I wouldn't even chance leaving this behind. And my pictures. While I still have electricity. That's help. It's guaranteed. Guaranteed. You will be able to prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that Alan Markowitz, along with this Alabama Department of Rehabilitation, where you went to get some professional career counseling, these are outright falsified, these medical records. Michael Quinn, all of this is completely irrelevant. That's how $250,000 got blown down here. And I get the help to homelessness from someone who comes from the Chicagoland North Shore, where it's unheard of for something like that to happen. You bet. When you look at that vocational evaluation on me, those medical records are falsified. There was no way to save a little bit of money and disqualify. That there is no immunity. That is not a... You're going to be dealing with people. Of a human studies professor, God forbid, creating disorders. It would be hard to believe. Ever since then, it should have picked up that successful career immediately. Just falsifying medical records, though, is a professional services being rendered. And yes, everything I've stated, as high profile as this gets, that is 100% honest. I can reconstruct the exact dates. I do have that. It's going to take some time here. Okay? I'm going to need to be able to reconstruct the exact dates of all the help from the helping hand of the United Way. Alan Markowitz, Joe Lee, Rachel Hughes, Jim Carden most definitely should have corrected himself. And he's out there running wild on mental illness. Well, let me guarantee you something. I think that he didn't have the authority, so he pushed it up to the next person. Jim Harris III, with a human studies professor from the university system. Pam Mobley, no wonder she thinks I'm a ghost. They're not going to hide this one. You'd be absolutely out of your mind to do that to someone. But who is more powerful? Someone who comes from the Chicagoland North Shore creating success? Or all the Republican criminal activity and most powerful special interest in the medical that can take that away from you? It's not medical in any manner, but that's all it is. How serious is this? Again, the way you really build up the strongest possible high-profile example is take that business expertise I've been thoroughly honest about in 2004, and it's going to be today. Do not lead me into any social services in any manner. I do not want to hear about any kind of that help. It's all going to be medical again, and none of it is. That's how it happens. You take exactly the proper context. I would never hesitate in Lake County. You might get poor quality service according to the EQ factor. You may get poor quality service, but you're not going to get outright falsifying medical records. That's a norm. Obviously, that's the most important factor in survival, as I am pushed to make one final choice of survival. There's all the help from the United Way. The falsified medical records, God forbid. And then I experienced some guy that should have made a correction. And of course the medical got louder and louder. And even louder. And what was all of that? I understand Jim Harris III has committed psychological malpractice. What's the honest truth? You see that professional career sitting up there, rough draft? It was well beyond their capacity. Thank you for getting to know me. Absolutely. I think anybody in agreement with where I am in life right now on this day is seeing that was the context of that dream that you had last night. Right there was sitting. Falsified medical records without any question. I could not say that at the beginning of all these videos at the introduction of what's truly true about my background. Absolutely, I'll be able to prove falsified medical records. Absolutely. I think the psychological malpractice, though, It's going to be the most interesting one. Absolutely. Everything taken in consideration, I'm able to put myself right back to where the truth is absolutely going to come out. I don't even question. Everything considered, what I have shared with you here is of the most serious nature. And I am being as honest as I can be, regardless of the way I am coming across. I know myself the best. Get me in that Chicagoland North Shore. What's necessary to incorporate me in the old money out there with the business experience I have is highly in demand up there. I would reincorporate right back. This wound would heal. That's a wound. I don't think I injured myself. I certainly didn't know anything like this. This is something I never would want to have anything to do with, ever. I think that's in complete agreement. I also believe that video I did, psychological malpractice, is going to be in quite of agreement, too. Get me up on the Chicagoland North Shore. It's going to take a bit of work, though. I've been severely injured. Thank you. Thank you very much for getting to know me. Absolutely. It's very evident. Ever since that date, on 4/7/2004, I felt like that guy's house should be burned down to the ground. All of it. Being put in a setting like I had a stroke, all of that was falsified. I think if you took that same capital and assets and invested it, though, in reincorporating me in the Chicagoland North Shore in a professional career, it would have been the real help. Thank you. Thank you for getting to know me. My name is Richard Moss. Absolutely. I will be thoroughly sacrificial in this respect. Absolutely. I come from Deerfield, Illinois, as you can see from the very first video. I fully disclose everything about my background. You know me very well now. You're getting to know me really well. That's why I did these videos in absolute survival, but the most important one was this video here. I think I'm investing my Monday, October 15th, as wisely as I possibly can. I come from Deerfield. You got it all. You don't have to have me say anything more. You've got everything to know exactly who I am. You know the date I came out here. You know the date that I thank you for investing the time and get to know me.